Welcome to the Modern Day Cottage. I'm Emily and my daughter is Ruby Ann. Today we're going to start by making our homemade sourdough freshly milled wheat bread, and you can find that recipe at themoderndaycottage.com. I'm using my mock meal. I highly recommend the mock meal. We are not affiliates of the mock meal, but if we do become mock meal affiliates, we'll put the link below. By having the mock meal on the counter, I'm making freshly milled bread a whole lot more than using my Wonder Meal. Now don't get me wrong, I love my Wonder Meal. It is a beast and it will mill up flour very finely and very fast and a lot at one time. But it's just cumbersome to get it in and out of the cabinet, and I don't have anywhere to set it out because it does have a canister beside it and it is an impact meal. It's not a stone meal like the mock meal is. We love using red sea salt in all of our recipes. That's another tip. We use the fine and the coarse depending on the recipe. I use the coarse in my sourdough bread. This is another tip. The reason why is it doesn't dissolve quickly, so it doesn't prohibit the yeast from doing its job. When you use the fine salt, it dilutes a lot faster, so it kind of prohibits all of the sourdough action in the yeast. Our chickens are starting to molt, so they're not very pretty, but they're still pretty to us. But their backs are, they're molting, and it's just that time of the year. But they're still laying like crazy, so the fermented feed is the ticket. We've been using fermented feed for the past, it's been over a year, and they lay like crazy using fermented feed. We're finally getting around to planting the rest of the plants. This is a lettuce leaf basil. Huge, gigantic, huge leaves on it. If you love basil and you've never grown lettuce leaf basil, that is one of my favorite basils to grow, and I get it from Baker Creek Seeds. These are the Anaheim and shishito peppers that we grew from seed, and we're getting those into the garden. And then we're getting some bunching onions put into the garden. What we use here at the Modern Day Cottage for our organic fertilizer is Epsom salt, garden tone, and alfalfa pellets, as well as our eggs. You just lightly crack an egg per tomato plant, and that will give it lots of nutrients. The biodegradable weed barrier is doing fabulous, so we will do that in all the beds next year. We've got, I think, 4 beds done with it so far that my husband did, but it's basically just thin cardboard laid on top of the soil and then the mulch, and it will break down with the mulch. So we spent the morning out in the cottage garden getting our plants in. And now the sourdough bread is ready to go into the Bantam basket, and we'll let it proof for a couple of hours, and we're going to let it proof in the oven because I don't want a large crumb on it that's like a holy crumb where you have holes all in it. I want a very tight crumb, so I'm going to proof it quicker in the oven with the oven light on. You can use a loaf pan as well. I wanted to test out an open bake on our new griddle that we got, so that's what I'm going to do. The baguettes did wonderful on the open griddle. The tiny cottage is coming along so much faster than I thought it would. My husband is doing a superior job on building this tiny home for my mom. Mimi's tiny cottage is what we're going to call it. We bought an antique dresser for the bathroom vanity, and the bathroom sink vanity. We can't wait to do that. And we also bought an antique cast iron sink for her kitchen. It's going to be a beautiful little cottage. I cannot wait to get in there and do all the painting and decorating. So we're going to make a roast today, and we're going to make chicken fajitas. So it'll be steak and chicken fajitas. So I'm just using in a little bit of the chicken broth that we canned, and the rest of the chicken broth is going to be used for some rice. Ruby Ann's going to make some rice, and I'm going to make some chicken fajitas as well as some pico de gallo sauce. The sourdough bread, it proofed in the oven and it is ready. But you'll see when you proof it fast, it deflates pretty good. You'll see here it deflating. But the open bake did wonderful. I'm probably going to be doing more open bakes in the future because I can get 2 loaves at one time versus 1 loaf at a time for the bowl shape. Now the loaf pans, I'm probably get 4 in at a time. I'd probably do more bowls if I had another griddle, but we'll wait and see how that goes. Alright, so I'm just scoring the bread for decorative and as expansion. The half moon is for the expansion, and the other part, these other designs are just basically for designs to make the bread pretty. So I'm using a pan of ice. I see a lot of people do boiling water. You can most certainly do that as well. But the ice to me gives a continuous steam versus the boiling water gives just a burst of steam at first and then a lot of humidity. And it seems like the bread gets soggy when you do boiling water. For me, but you know, every area is different and every kitchen is different. So do what works best for you. We've got a free Pantry printable. We have a Pantry inventory printable, a freezer inventory printable, and a household goods inventory printable. At the blog, at themoderndaycottage.com, you can sign up and receive that. These are the sourdough starters we started, and 4 out of the 6 are doing really, really well. The orange juice and whole wheat flour, the water and whole wheat flour, and the orange juice and bread flour, and the orange juice and all-purpose flour are doing really well. So I'm dumping out all but 30 grams of it, adding in 50 grams of water and 50 grams of flour. And we're going to feed that with half rye and half whole wheat to give it a jump start, and then tomorrow's feeding I will start feeding it its own flour that it was started with. And then I'll show marking on the 10th day, and then the 13th. This is day 10. So on day 13 I'll be making 4 loaves of bread from each of these 4 starters, and we'll see which one yielded the best. Sourdough bread is done. When you do an open bake, cover it for the first 25 minutes and the last part of it 15 to 20 minutes depending on your recipe and the temperature of your oven. Uncover it to let it brown for the open bake. Ruby Ann is starting some Mexican rice. One of our favorite things to make in the Instant Pot. Is so easy to make. You can just make it and set it for 8 minutes and you've got a delicious side rice for your meals. We love making fajitas here at the cottage because they go far. You got leftovers for days. A lot of people don't like to eat Mexican that much, so if you want to freeze your leftovers, then do that. But we love Mexican food, so it's just a delight to have for several days. So I'm going to start with some bacon fat. We love using bacon fat for our oil needs for baking. Bacon fat is a good fat. Alright, so I'm going to make the pico de gallo. Started sauteing some onions, some bell peppers. So I'm using orange, yellow, red, and green bell peppers and a white onion for the fajitas. I'm sauteing those on the stove. And I am making some fresh pico de gallo is what I'm making with Roma tomatoes, white onion, a jalapeno, and cilantro, lemon juice, and salt. And it's just simple as that. It is a wonderful side to add to your fajitas. I love using it as dip with tortilla chips. If you have fresh limes, I recommend that, but we didn't have any good selection of limes at the grocery store or our local market. So I'm using pure lime juice from Missouri Standard. It's Lakewood, I believe, is the brand. And then you're just gonna mix it up and let it set for about an hour or two in the refrigerator if you can, so it lets all those flavors really marry before you use it for your meal. As Amazon and Missouri affiliates, any link below you click on and make a purchase, we may make a small commission at no cost to you. But please note, we only share products and items we love and use here at our cottage. Some just salt and pepper to my sauteed vegetables. I don't add any of the fajita seasoning to the sauteed vegetables. And we're going to use our cottage blend fajita mix that Ruby Ann and I have made. Oh gosh, it's been several years. She was probably 9 when we finally found a combination of seasoning that we loved for our fajitas that wasn't too spicy, but spicy enough to know that you're eating Mexican food. And so we will share that recipe below as well in the description box until we can get it onto the blog. But when we get it onto the blog, there'll be step-by-step instructions as well as a recipe card that you can print off. So I just cut up some chicken tenders and added in the fajita seasoning, as well as melted some bacon fat before adding the chicken to it. Alright, so once the 8 minutes on the Mexican rice is done, you let it naturally release, or if you're in a hurry, you can do the quick release, but please be careful with doing that. A delicious side of Mexican rice. These fajitas were absolutely delicious. They'll just get better and better as the time goes on. Oh, and we also made some fresh guacamole. The guacamole is just basically onion, garlic powder, onion powder, a little pinch of cayenne, and some lime juice, and then you mix it up with mashed avocados as well. We are gonna have these for lunch and also supper, and then tomorrow as well. They go really far here with us 4. The sourdough bread has now cooled, and I'm just going to cut it into half, and then I'm going to cut it into pieces. Just a piece of toast with butter and our homemade jam on it. You'll see while I proofed it really quick because it's got a closed crumb. The butter and the jam doesn't fall through the holes. But now, don't get me wrong, I love sourdough that is very holy. There's nothing against that, but when you're making sandwiches, you really want it to hold the fillings in and for them not to fall out. The homemade jam is delicious. I highly recommend the Pomona pectin. It really lets the fruit flavors shine, and you don't have to use as much sugar at all making your jams using the Pomona pectin. The sourdough bread is so soft and so delicious. I love this recipe. I hope you get to try it, and if you do get to try it, please let us know. We're going to dehydrate some strawberries. We're going to make a strawberry and cream sourdough bread recipe soon. So we're going to dehydrate the strawberries to use in that bread recipe. Thank you for watching with us today here at the Modern Day Cottage. And as always, we will bring homemade recipes, cottage living, and a cozy home. We hope to see you in the next video.